In a world where noise often drowns out nuance, true intelligence hides quietly in plain sight. Psychologists remind us that being smart is not about how much you know, but how you use what you know, how you process it, and how you apply it in the way you live and interact with others. So how do you really know you are smarter than most people? Not by grades, not by degrees, not by titles, but by the way you think, the way you adapt, and the way you notice what others miss. Here are the first two psychological signs of advanced intelligence. Subtle, sharp, and hard to deny sign 1. You can stay silent when everyone else is talking. Most people feel anxious when silence appears in a room. The moment there's a pause, they fill it with chatter, opinions, or emotions, because stillness feels uncomfortable. But if you can remain silent, that is not shyness. It's psychological restraint. Here's why this matters. Smart people know that silence gives power. The less you speak, the more others assume depth in your thoughts. The more you listen, the more information people give away without realizing it. You understand that speaking at the wrong moment can reveal too much of your thinking, so you let others reveal themselves while you observe. You've mastered what psychology calls self-regulation, the ability to control impulses rather than give in to them. Silence is not weakness, it is control, and the smarter you are, the more you realize not every thought should be spoken, most should not. What it reveals about your mind. You value information over attention. You can delay gratification, a key marker of emotional intelligence. You are comfortable with uncertainty, while others rush to fill it with noise. Sign 2. You can instinctively see people's real motives. Psychology tells us humans wear masks, a concept called impression management. Most people accept the mask at face value. You don't. If someone offers help, you sense the hidden motive. If someone is angry about one thing, you can tell there's a deeper frustration beneath the surface. This isn't paranoia. It's advanced social perception. You read intentions, not just words. You watch tone, micro-expressions, delayed answers, and fake enthusiasm. You are not distracted by charm or flattery. You pay attention to what lies beneath the surface. This makes you very difficult to manipulate because the usual tricks that work on most people don't work on you. In relationships, you watch patterns over time instead of being persuaded by a single moment. Psychologists would call this high social intelligence. It's not about raw intellect, but about clarity in reading people, what it reveals about your mind. You trust behavior more than promises. You don't project your own values onto others. You've probably been hurt before and transformed that pain into perception. That experience sharpened your ability to see through people now. Let's pause here. These two signs alone already make you stand out. Not because you dominate conversations, but because you see through them. And when you see clearly, you cannot be controlled. But here's the paradox. Being smarter than most does not always feel easy. It often feels lonelier, quieter, harder to fool, but also harder to connect with. Because people dislike mirrors, and you have become one. Let's sum up. Do these apply to you? You prefer silence over noise because you want to observe, not perform. You don't take people at face value because you are always decoding their true motives. If these apply, you're already operating at a level most never reach, but this is only the beginning. Next, we explore how curiosity shapes intelligence, why boredom rarely touches you, and why the smartest minds never need to prove themselves. Ready to go deeper. Let's continue. Sign 3. You use curiosity as a tool. Not just a hobby psychologists call curiosity, one of the strongest predictors of lifelong intelligence. Average minds stop questioning when they feel safe. Smarter minds never stop, but your curiosity is not just casual, it's strategic. You don't just ask how something works, you ask why it works. Who benefits? and what hidden system keeps it in place. Here's what this looks like. You don't just follow trends, you analyze them. You don't just watch someone rise in influence. You study how they did it and what patterns allowed it. You care about systems, not just outcomes. You ask questions most don't think of. Who created these rules? Who benefits if I fail? Who gains if I follow the default path? This kind of curiosity keeps you adaptable. While most people lock into fixed thinking by their mid-20s, you keep learning, unlearning, and evolving. This makes you unpredictable and difficult to trap. What it reveals about your mind. You know information is leverage. You look for structures, not just surface answers. You connect dots. Others don't. Even see sign 4, you rarely get bored because you can entertain yourself with thought. Psychologists see this as a sign of high creativity and mental flexibility. Most people need constant stimulation, phones, games, conversations, or noise to distract themselves from boredom. But you can sit quietly and still feel alive. Your mind doesn't idle. It creates, you imagine scenarios, you rehearse strategies, you invent ideas and connect memories. Your thoughts keep you engaged. This ability shows not only creativity, but resilience. It means your inner world is rich enough that you don't need constant external input. You reflect on what others haven't even noticed. This isn't just imagination. This is mental autonomy. Here's what that means. You can think for long periods without distraction, not because you force yourself to, but because your mind is naturally exploratory. You build mental frameworks to understand life. While most people remember random facts, you build systems, philosophies, timelines, and store them like tools. You're resistant to the world's addiction to noise because you don't need external input to feel alive. You are your own algorithm. Psychologists call this high intrinsic motivation, the ability to generate stimulation from within rather than depend on outside triggers. Most people are trapped by distraction. But if you can find stimulation in silence, you're already ahead of 95% of minds. What it reveals about your mind. You can hold abstract thought without exhaustion. You are mentally and emotionally self-reliant, and you're most dangerous in stillness because that's when your mind sharpens itself, sign 5. You feel no need to prove you're smart. Here's the paradox. The smartest people rarely talk about being smart. They don't flaunt credentials. They don't interrupt to correct people just to show superiority. They don't quote books for attention. Why? Because they know something psychology proves again and again. Needing validation is a trap of the ego. The moment you try to prove your intelligence, you've already surrendered power. You understand that the more you reveal, the more predictable you become. So you let others underestimate you while you quietly maneuver. You measure value by effectiveness, not applause. You don't need others to recognize your brilliance. You need them to align with your vision without even realizing they've been guided. You've learned that arguments rarely change outcomes. Influence does. Psychologists call this self-concealment, the ability to regulate what you reveal for long-term advantage. What it reveals about your mind. You've transcended the ego trap of recognition. You use humility strategically, not morally. You measure intelligence by results, not reactions now. We're at the core of psychological intelligence. Being smarter than most isn't about having more answers. It's about asking sharper questions, observing more deeply, and knowing when to conceal your power. Checkpoint summary of this stage. You use curiosity as a scalpel, not a toy. You never get bored because your mind constantly creates and analyzes. You never need to prove your intelligence, because restraint gives you more control than arguments ever could. The final 2 signs are the deadliest. They reveal why you can influence people without effort and why you're often misunderstood, envied, or quietly feared. If you're still here. It's likely because part of you already knows you're not like most people. Your intelligence doesn't scream. It doesn't beg for attention. It observes, waits, and then acts with precision. Psychology agrees with Machiavelli here. True. Intelligence is control over yourself, over others, and over outcomes, sign 6. You can make people believe it was their idea. This is the mark of advanced social intelligence. You don't need to force agreement. You don't need to win arguments. Instead, you allow others to walk into the very conclusion you intended. That's not charm. That's suggestion. You know how to plant thoughts instead of imposing them, instead of saying someone is wrong. You ask questions that lead them to reconsider themselves. Instead of announcing your plan, you create a situation where they think it was theirs. You let people feel powerful while you quietly steer them. Psychology calls this motivational interviewing, a way of guiding someone by activating their own sense of choice. Most people want to feel in control. You give them that feeling. As long as it aligns with your path, you reshape rather than attack. This is one of the highest forms of intelligence because people hate being convinced but love being right. If you can make someone believe your idea was their epiphany, you gain influence that feels permanent. What it reveals about your mind. You don't crave credit, only results. You've let go of the childish need to be right. You've turned humility into a psychological weapon. Sign 7. You never react. You calculate. This is the coldest and rarest sign of true intelligence. You don't lash out when provoked. You don't act from impulse when embarrassed, hurt, or challenged. You observe, you absorb, you delay, and then you respond with precision. Why is this so rare? Because most people are prisoners of emotional momentum. They get insulted and snap. They get disagreed with and defend. They get betrayed and break, but you don't. You create distance between stimulus and response, what psychologists call high emotional regulation. When someone tries to provoke you, you don't reward them with a reaction. You leave them uncertain whether they even reached you. That's psychological warfare. If someone wrongs you, you don't retaliate instantly. You wait until the moment that benefits you most, and then your move is decisive. You care about outcomes more than emotions. You'd rather shift the entire board than complain about the pieces that makes you unstoppable. What it reveals about your mind: you're emotionally self-governed. You don't demand fairness from the world, only understanding of it. You've replaced emotional outbursts with strategy. Now let's reflect. Most people think intelligence is about IQ tests, puzzles, or clever opinions, but psychology shows something deeper. True intelligence is not loud. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't crave applause. It operates silently, strategically, and with precision. And the rarest minds are not those who dazzle the world with brilliance. They are the ones who quietly make the world adjust to them. To you and to psychology, intelligence is not about showing off knowledge, but about shaping reality from the shadows. It's about seeing without being seen, influencing without forcing, and winning without exposing your hunger to win. That is why most people will never truly recognize your mind until it's already too late. You've walked through all 7 signs, so let's review them in full. You stay silent while others speak because your brain is gathering data. You see through people's masks and into their motives. You use curiosity like a weapon, not a distraction. You never get bored because your mind entertains itself. You never prove you're smart. You just act strategically. You let others believe it was their idea and move quietly in the background. You never react. You calculate if these resonate. You're not just smart. You're strategically intelligent. And in a Machiavellian world, that is the only kind of intelligence that survives and thrives. But psychology reminds us of one final truth. Being smarter than others comes at a cost. If you see yourself in these signs, you are already standing apart from the crowd, and that separation brings its own burden. Machiavelli would warn you that intelligence without control is self-destruction, because the world is not designed for sharp minds. It is designed to restrain them. If you don't learn how to adapt, your insight will turn into isolation, and your clarity will feel like a curse. So what do you do with this rare gift? First, accept that you will be misunderstood. This is the first price of intelligence. People will call you arrogant when you are simply clear. They will call you paranoid when you are simply perceptive. They will call you an overthinker when you are simply ahead. The loneliness you feel is not failure. It's filtration. Average minds fall away. So sharper minds can find each other. It's not your job to drag others upward. It's your job to find those who can walk beside you. Second, build a network, not a crowd. Average minds want popularity. Smarter minds want understanding. Strategic minds want allies. If you're smarter than most, your greatest risk is wasting energy on people who drain you or demand endless explanations. Keep your circle small but sharp. Psychology calls this selective affiliation, aligning only with those who elevate rather than diminish you. Don't chase applause. Find those who challenge you without dimming your light. Protect your mind like a fortress, because rare things attract envy. Your intelligence is not a display piece, it is a weapon. Guard it carefully. Third, master emotional control. Many intelligent people fail not because they were wrong, but because they lacked regulation. They let frustration leak through their image, they let passion sabotage patience, they let truth override timing. Psychologists describe this as low emotional intelligence, undermining high cognitive intelligence. Remember this: people don't judge you by your thoughts, they judge you by your presence. You don't need to be calm, you need to appear calm. You don't need to be friendly, you need to appear open, because influence is not just about being. Right? It's about being trusted, liked, or feared. Practice non-reactivity. Let others argue, explode, and reveal weakness. You win by not joining the chaos. Use emotion as a mask, not a mirror. Delay gratification like a strategist. Sometimes the smartest move is patience, until the world hands you the advantage. Fourth, turn your mind into leverage. Raw intelligence is potential. Applied intelligence is power. Knowledge becomes true power only when it is converted into influence, assets, and outcomes. If you understand psychology, apply it to guide people. If you see patterns, use them to anticipate and profit. Play multiple games at once because most people think in only one dimension. Build income, alliances, and reputation, while revealing only fragments of your ability. Mystery is part of your strength. Never let the full scope of your capability be exposed. Machiavelli believed that power often comes not from what you control, but from what others believe you could control. Final words from one rare mind to another. You are not broken for being misunderstood. You are not cold for being clear. You are not arrogant for being ahead. You are one of the few who can walk through the world watching, analyzing, and shaping outcomes without needing applause or permission. And here is the last Machiavellian truth. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. So you must be both a fox to recognize deception and a lion to command respect. You have already proven the fox within you. Now it is time to awaken the lion. Use your intelligence not only to survive, but to shape the game itself. Because when sharp minds remain silent, the world becomes ruled by fools who only look wise, and we both know how that ends. In chaos. So step forward. Play the game differently, and win it without ever raising your voice.